Andrea Pass is the owner of Andrea Pass Public Relations. She has been working in public relations for over 30 years, creating and implementing PR campaigns in a wide range of categories, including consumer products, lifestyle, business to business, education, health and wellness, beauty, food, authors, nonprofits, and more. So she's here today to walk us through what public relations is, what assets authors should have in place before working with a PR agent, what to expect, and outcomes of good PR efforts. So without further ado, Andrea Pass.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm coming to you from New Jersey, where it snowed earlier in the week and then it melted very quickly. So we're extremely happy about that. If you do have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can wait until the end. So please mark down your questions, because there's a lot of content I want to go over today to help you authors understand public relations and what you need to do. So I will share my screen. There we go. Great. You know, it always takes a second when you're doing all of this, you know, on your own. But everyone can see everything, I'm hoping. And today we're going to talk about public relations for authors, increase awareness and drive sales. And these two are both independent and a couple, because if you don't increase awareness, you are not going to drive sales. And I met an author a number of months ago who said, but my book is on Amazon. And I said, and who knows about your book if there's no awareness, but there's no sales? Well, you can't have one without the other. So we'll talk about those aspects and the things you can do on your own and the things that a public relations agent can do for you. So let's talk about content. And if I was able to see all of you right now, I would ask you, who absorbed content today? Okay, so here on the East Coast, it's afternoon. I've already read a number of blogs, read news stories, I've watched television, I've listened to a radio report, I've listened to part of a podcast. We spend about 11 hours a day interacting with media. It's mind-boggling because that's the average. So it's really probably a number higher than that. But when you look at media, you're talking about TV, radio, newspaper, blogs, online, you name it. But you have to decide what is going to be the right media for your business. And all of us have different topics in a book that we're writing. And so we're going to have different audiences. But today we're talking about being included in editorial content, meaning earned media coverage. So we are not talking about advertising yet, but we're talking about how do you get free press coverage. Okay, what happened here? There we go. So editorial endorsement increases the brand value of your book. So whether that is an article that you're providing, maybe an excerpt from the book, an interview you've participated in that highlights your book, book reviews, whatever. But what we're talking about is non-biased reporting. And this is not fake news. This is real news. And it's news that it's important that it's evergreen. So for what you do and the fact that you are self-publishing through My Word Publishing, we don't need to have a date. My book is coming out on April 1st. Quite honestly, no one cares. The date doesn't matter. So anything you do should not be dated, because it doesn't matter if your book comes out this year or next year, or it came out 2 years ago. The content and the fact that you have a book is evergreen, and you can use that content on your website and other websites. And it's important when you get reviews or articles or interviews that you repost on your social media more than once to increase awareness and engagement, and plan out your year or your campaign that you are going to increase awareness using public relations for your book. So here it is. Let's talk a bit about the difference between advertising and PR, because this is where it's always so confusing, because in advertising, you pay. You know that your ad is going to run in that newspaper or a magazine or on that TV station, radio station, et cetera, that day, that time, the right side, lower left, upper right, whatever it's going to be, because you've paid for it. But in public relations, the coverage is earned. And that's really important to note. In public relations, we're building trust. You are the author. The content of your book, whether it be a children's book, fiction, nonfiction, a how-to, self-help, you are building trust as an author in the content of that book. And PR is about trust. Advertising is building exposure. In advertising, someone will tell you, okay, the circulation of this newspaper is XYZ, or the unique views per month of this website is XYZ. They're numbers. The numbers don't always translate to who's absorbing the content. And by working with media outlets that build trust, you are getting that third-party validation. It's pretty much editorial endorsement when you're getting press coverage. And let's be honest, everybody, when we know it's an ad, we're skeptical. We know it's paid for. We know someone put those words together, and those things are important to note the difference of. Advertising is guaranteed, PR, no guarantees. And when I meet with clients and they say, what can Andrea Pass public relations guarantee? And I'm honest and say, absolutely nothing. However, I'm getting the press interested because I'm the kind of person that produces content, produces interviews or reviews or what have you. So anyone who comes right out of the gate that you speak to in PR that says, oh, I can guarantee you XYZ, they're full of it. They can't guarantee you that. In advertising, you have control of the ad. But in PR, you are not misquoted, but they control what quotes will go in the story. So I'm always recommending to my authors that I work with, repeat yourself. It's okay to repeat yourself during an interview, because then the message you wanted to get out is going to be the right message. Ads are visual, PR uses language. Advertising is expensive. Sometimes it's a one and done. You're on a tight budget. Let's be honest. Public relations is a lot less expensive, especially when you're working with a small PR firm or a solopreneur. In advertising, we're saying to you, buy this product, buy this book, buy this. In PR, we're saying this, your book is important. So make sure as you're planning your marketing plans for your book, that you're looking at the difference between advertising and public relations, and you're making sure that you have a public relations plan in place for your book to increase that awareness and drive sales. All right, here's the big question, and Amanda and I kind of went back and forth discussing this. Are you ready? Okay, so do you have a publishing date? Does it matter? It really doesn't. However, the press doesn't want to talk to you unless they can read the book. So if your book is coming out in 6 months, you're not ready for public relations yet. If you are a well-known author that everybody is sitting on the edge of their seat, I have to admit, I just finished Jodi Picoult's latest book, Mad Honey, yesterday. I could not put it down, and it took a while. As soon as I could get it from the library, I got it. That's different. She's a name that we're waiting for her next book to come out. But if you're not at that stage yet, and I say yet because you can get at that stage, you have to start. Baby steps first. The publishing date won't matter. Do you have advanced reader copies, hard copies, or ebooks available to distribute to reviewers? That's important. I, as a public relations professional, recommend books, hard copy books, because I can tell you, writers who are reviewing books or maybe doing an interview with you, they want the hard copy book so they can hold the book up. They can write notes in the book. They could refer to different things. It's harder on an ebook to make those kind of notes and have them easy at hand. So make sure before you start public relations outreach, you do have the ability to have ARCs or final versions available for the press? Do you have a website? Yes, you need a book website. Or if you have a business already and you have a book, make sure there's a tab on that website for that book. Consumers need to know, and I say consumers because I'm hitting all categories, whether you are a children's book author or you write a business book or a fiction book, you've got to be able to reach the person who's buying. And they will either go to your website, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. Your book has to be available. So you need that before you start a PR campaign. And will the book be available at retail? I've worked with a number of self-published authors where the book is available only online. But if there are brick and mortar retailers that will carry your book, that's important for the PR person to know, to be able to do outreach for you in those markets where the book might be sold at a brick and mortar retail establishment. Social media. Some people love it, some people hate it. Authors, you need it. You must have social media pages. By having special social media pages for your book, that's an extra bonus, or it could be your personal author page. But you need to be on social media to be able to share the press coverage, information about your book, and communicate effectively with your audiences. And those audiences are going to be people who are interested in your topic. They might be friends and family or business colleagues. Every single one is a touch point. So remember, if you get a book review, if you're quoted in an article, if you're a guest on a podcast, you need to post this on your social media pages, and you need to post it frequently. The article came out today, post it again in 3 weeks, in 4 months, in 6 months, a few times after that, because the average reader of content, they're not looking at the date something happened, they're looking at the content. So make sure you have social media pages. Depending on the topic, genre of your book, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Do you have a YouTube page that you can put the interviews that are audio and video interviews? Are you on TikTok? Are you on Twitter? Social is important. Follow other authors. Make comments on their pages. If you're on LinkedIn, make sure you are commenting on your fellow authors' pages. Everybody help each other out. That's going to increase awareness and drive sales. Very important. Put your book jacket on those pages. Put your photography. Get pictures of people holding the book. I was working with, grab this from behind me. I don't know if this comes through here, Inventor Confidential, a book for at-home inventors. And what we did was we asked everybody we knew to take a picture holding the book. And we started using that on social media. It looks great if other people are holding your book. And you can see I have all my notes and my little stickies because I'm always taking notes for all of my clients. But make sure you are putting things on social media, and especially the press. Tag the media outlet. Make sure you're showing them some love. And they'll come back and show you love the next time you write your next book. So remember, every relationship you're making, hopefully it's not a one and done. You're writers. You obviously have books in you. So hopefully after book 1, you're thinking already of book 2, or even when you're writing book 1. And that's really important to getting the word out. Photography. Book jacket photography, headshot photography. That's very, very important. I know sometimes authors, I don't like the way I look. Hire a professional to do your headshot. They'll help you get the right look, the right outfit to wear, the right background, because that's something that's going to be used in press coverage. Through Andrea Pass Public Relations, I work with many authors. So I'm always providing the book jacket and the headshot image to the reporters so they can include that in their article, in a page on their podcast, in their social media. So you do need to have those images, and you do need to know who your target is, who's the buyer of your book. Once you've answered all of these questions, okay, you're ready for PR. And how do you reach the media? If you don't have a public relations agent, you need to research how to pitch your book or your topic to the press. You can research media outlets by simple Googles. Obviously, Andrea Pass Public Relations, I subscribe to many databases. So it gets me closer to reaching the right editor, reporter, producer, host on a topic. If you're not going to work with a public relations professional, do your homework and create a list. Who do you want to reach? Who should be covering your book or reviewing your book? And prepare your talking points. In an interview, have 3 points you want to make. That's very, very important. You don't want the listener to be so overwhelmed with so much minutia, but why'd you write this book? What's the history behind you wanting to write this book? What's the book about? What's the outcome or feedback you want to have from the consumer or business that reads your book? Talk to others about purchasing your book on Amazon and writing reviews. Oftentimes on Amazon, you cannot write a review unless you purchase the book through Amazon. Again, this is an opportunity for those of you who are affiliated with My Word Publishing or other publishing houses to help one another out. Go ahead, buy each other's books and write reviews using creative wording and keywords. Post on Goodreads and other book review sites. Participate in contests and giveaways to increase awareness. Again, public relations is all about sharing everything on your social media pages to increase awareness and drive sales. If you're going to work with a publicist, how does it work? And that's always a big question people ask for me. How does it work to work with a PR person? Well, first off, I don't work with anyone who wrote a book without reading the book. And if someone is not going to take the time to read your book, you don't want to work with them. It's very important that you're working with people that want to read your book. That's important. The publicist needs your headshot, your biography, the book jacket, and an overview of the book. Now, if you've written a nonfiction book, that's going to include key points you're trying to get across to an audience. And the publicist, such as myself, is going to pitch to the press. So we're out there securing press coverage by reaching the press in the way that a professional publicist knows how to do that. To secure reviews, to secure articles, to secure interviews. But the publicist is going to make sure that the official title, website, social pages, sales links are included in that media coverage. So it's very important when you're working with a publicist that they're taking time to understand who you are and to remember you are your brand. I worked with an author who had, she did a lot of fiction in the Jim Crow South. That was her genre. And she did an interview on a podcast. And one of the questions was, what was your brand? And her answer was, I don't have a brand. And when I heard this later, I said, you are your brand. We have to all remember, whatever field we're in, we are our brand. So we've got to be out there sharing information that we are the brand. We are an author. This is our genre. This is our background. So that has to be communicated effectively. And a professional publicist will help you effectively communicate that message. Overall, I know there's a lot of questions, and I wanted to take time to really dive into that. But I say to all of the participants and attendees today through My Word Publishing, please touch base with me. Let's have a chat. Let's have a consultation. follow me on social media. Let's spend some time being there for each other and answering each other's questions and sharing with each other so we can grow your book and your goals. So at this point, I know there's a lot to cover. So I didn't want my presentation going super long. I wanted to make sure we can talk and I can understand, what do you do? What is your genre? Is your book out there already? Is it in your head and you haven't written it yet? So I'd like to open the floor, Amanda, if we could, let's dive deep into press coverage and what we can do for your book that's out already or the book that's coming out soon.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. If you guys want to you can either take yourself off mute and just go for it. That's fine with us. Yeah, Sunny, go for it.
I think I'm really ready for this. I've got 5 books out on dogs. 2 are nonfiction how-tos, and 3 are middle grade fiction books, humane education through storytelling, to deter possible animal abuse, because the middle grade ages are when children often turn to beginning animal abuse, which always escalates to violence against people as they grow older without intervention, which is called the link. And I have done all sorts of programs with Polly, with Amanda, with all sorts of people. I've done all kinds of promotions over the years with all the books. And so I'm kind of interested in, how would you handle an author that has both fiction and nonfiction? And how do you base your prices?
Well, Sunny, that's amazing what you're covering. And that's interesting information that I did not know about animal abuse. And I think that for your case, it has to be 2 separate approaches. So the nonfiction books have to be separate from the fiction books because you're reaching different audiences. So in PR, they couldn't happen at the same time. It's certainly part of your bio, but to make sure that a reporter is not going to cover multiple books at once, unless they're writing a feature story about you as an author. And that's very rare that a full feature will be on one author, other than potentially a local newspaper or a local outlet. So it would be really coming up with 2 ways to reach the press. And the way that I work is 2 ways: proactively, reactively. Proactively, I subscribe to databases. So any PR person who has been a true PR person will be subscribing to these expensive databases. And that gets us closer to reaching the right contact. So proactively, I'm out there pitching the story. So maybe I'm pitching a story about animal abuse. And you are the expert to discuss when this starts. And this is, of course, from 2 seconds of me talking to you, so I'm not doing a deep dive. And so getting you interviews, getting the book featured. For the fiction books, there's a different audience we'd be reaching. We're reaching parenting publications. We're reaching others in different categories to be able to talk about that. And then there's reactive public relations. How many times, it's horrible, have we heard that someone abused an animal? It's in the news. We heard someone threw a dog out a car window. I mean, I'm baffled by the whole thing. But then we bring you in reactively as an expert to discuss these topics and maybe how prevalent these things are. Again, I don't know anything about your topic other than the 2 sentences you gave me, but there are 2 different ways to pitch you.
Okay.
As an author, as an expert, fiction, nonfiction, reaching parents of middle schoolers, reaching folks in general. I have to admit, I've just become a dog lover over the past 2 years. My daughter and son-in-law got a Yorkie, so I get to babysit or dog sit, and I am in love, but I also love to give her back so I don't have to worry about running home to walk her when we're out to dinner. But those are some of the thoughts that I have for you. As far as fee, okay, and this is a topic that so many authors are concerned about. And listen, it's a tough thing. Public relations folks work on a monthly retainer basis. I work for a minimum of 6 months because it takes time. I have a client of mine Last month, I booked an interview taking place 2 months from now, because that's when this reporter can do the interview. So it's a time-consuming process, but the fees are based on the number of hours a month in my book. Other people have a set fee that they charge. What makes Andrea Pass Public Relations different is I don't have any interns. I don't have any newbies. I've been doing this a long time, and it's me, myself, and I. So I am the one pitching the press. I don't take on more clients than I can handle, and I work quickly. I started with a client about a week ago, and within 3 days, I had 3 interviews. And then the client said, "Can you slow down? You're not ready." Okay, you hired me, go, go, go. So, now I'm doing a lot of writing, softer pitching. Okay, I'm used to diving in the deep end, because authors, especially, it's a tough spend for authors. I get that. And authors don't want to wait a long time. They want to see things are happening, and it takes a while. I had an email interview with an author of mine that we filled out about 2 months ago. It's appearing in about 2 months. It's an email, that's when it's appearing. I have no control over when, but had we not submitted it a few months ago, we would just be starting from square one now. So the fees are going to vary, and I prefer not to give a dollar amount in a discussion like this, because I don't know what anyone is looking for in the number of hours or what they're doing. But public relations is not $500 a month. I met with an author who said, "I have $800 in total. What can you do for me?" And I had to say nothing. I said, "I can't do anything for you," because it's a lot of time back and forth. So I hope that gives you like the 10,000-foot explanation of where it is, but I would certainly welcome the opportunity to speak to anyone a little bit more on that. So I hope that answered your question and more.
Yeah, thank you.
Terrific. Was there anyone else that wants to ask?
So, Andrea, this is Turner Grant. So very quickly, in a nutshell, how would you handle an author like me with a book like I wrote? It's a memoir. I write under a pen name, and I personally have to remain anonymous, and I can only do things with my pen name and my image. That's why I put my book cover on, cannot appear in media. So how do you handle that one? It's sort of a provocative midlife memoir written under a pen name.
And there's certainly a challenge there, because today's podcasting world wants to see the person that they're interviewing, because 9 times out of 10, a podcast is going to also be YouTube. So there would have to be a discussion with those hosts and producers on that. As far as anything in print or online, that's an easy one. Your pen name is your name, and that's the name we're going with. And we're not saying it's a pen name. So you are being quoted as, if the name is Turner Grant, then that's the name. If there's a different name, that's the name. That is not an issue. As far as a headshot, we work with the book jacket, and there are certain media outlets that won't be interested in covering you because you will not allow a headshot. I don't know how I have not worked with an author that used a pen name, but we would have to do a little homework. And I'm a big believer in research. I think we all need to learn something new every day, and authors, you research a lot, but we have to research. How has this been handled for someone with a pen name? And we'll work that way. But there is a way to get it out there. And certainly a memoir does warrant press coverage, because there are other people that are probably dealing with what you dealt with to be able to share that message. And for certain media outlets that would cover a special topic like this, they would also understand that we can't release a photo. So there is certainly a way to get press coverage without a real name, pen name is fine, and a photo. It just means you won't be doing TV press, because in TV, you have to be there.
Great, thank you. I'll just share, so far, I've done 1 podcast, I've got 2 scheduled, and none of them have a problem with me not appearing on the video. So far that seems to be okay.
Yeah, and if I could bring up a point though about podcasts, and and anything that you are doing, and here's a tip for everyone, don't call your book my book. And I know that sounds silly, but one of my clients, and we would go over, I'd prep him for the interview and he'd do the interview, and I can't be on during the interview taping. And the interview would come out, well, in my book, well, chapter 4 in my book, no one cares it's chapter 4. What's the name of your book? The same way when I do a podcast, and you can Google me, I refer to myself a number of times in a podcast as Andrea Pass Public Relations, because people tune in and tune out. So it's important that you say the name of your book as you're talking. So for instance, you know, when Judy has done an interview, she does in the interview say, in my book, Your 4 Truths, in Your 4 Truths, I highlight not every sentence, but it's important as authors that you don't say my book. It's not important that it's your book. It's important what the name is. It's not important that in chapter 6 you discussed XYZ, but it's possible that you've highlighted important tips when you're learning how to be a public speaker, if you wrote a book about public speaking, or the history of castles in Washington State, that you're talking about the history of castles in Washington State. And whatever it is, make sure you're saying those points over and over again. Again, not like a broken record, but people tune in and out. And especially with a podcast, people are cooking dinner. They're out for a jog. They might have it on in the car and they're not 100% paying attention because they're on the road. So a tip, please make sure you refer to the name in any podcast interviews. Are there other questions today? I think Stephanie, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hi.
And thank you. I'm not going to say my book, but I do have I do have 2 published books and a third one on the way that's a little different. However, the genre of the books that I wrote, I'm trying not to say my book,
it's okay. This isn't an interview, so that's all right.
I know, but it's good practice. I'll be aware of it, right? They are a collection of mystical, poetic insights and stories that I refer them as heart writings. So the reason, one of the things is that I'm hoping everybody's in a rush. So it's a kind of a book you can flip to any page, and hopefully that's what you need to hear at that moment. So you can put it to work or on your bedstand. And basically it's to start the focus of within, and because you know there's just so much chaos that appears to be on the out. So so that's my kind of books. So how would you, now the third one I'm writing, I figured I'm almost done with that. That is basically a memoir and my view on how individual conscious evolution and involution affects humanity. So I know it sounds, but it's kind of funny. There's a lot of humor. I like to use a lot of humor. But so how would you market this kind of genre? You know, I have been finding podcasts that do that. I've done a few and it's been great. It's getting more popular, this subject, because people are looking for alternatives to calm down. So so there you go.
And it's very interesting. A few days ago on my personal Facebook page, I actually posted, when did someone ever calm down because someone told them to calm down? Because
no, you never tell
someone says, oh, Andrea, calm down. No, you can't tell me to calm down. I'm worked up. So I think that the fact is that is such an important category in helping people find humor in these topics, and yet finding a way for them to delve into their consciousness and find a way to not, I don't want to use the words calm down often, but find peace in whatever they're doing. And there are so many writers doing stories about some self-help tips. And a writer might be from a business publication. totally unrelated to who you think your audience is going to be. Or it could be a writer from a parenting publication. So whereas you might be on certain types of podcasts right now, there are other types of media that might be the right media for that based on further conversations.
Mhm.
And that's what's really important. I worked on a book called Mental Health Uncensored, a holistic therapist who works with teens, tweens, and young adults, gave the foundations every parent needed to know in mental health for their teen, tween, young adult. And the story and the angle we pitched out in so many different ways that at one point she was discussing fentanyl. Okay, that's not in her book. Why is she discussing fentanyl? But because she's an expert, it drove awareness to her book because someone was doing a piece on fentanyl. In my reactiveness, I found out about this. I said, can you comment? Because even though your book doesn't discuss drug use per se, so everything is not so cut and dry in a topic. So once a PR person like myself would read your book, we would have these ideas that you may not have thought about because you're not thinking about different press categories, where that's my job to think about different press categories. One of the things I find very important, and I worked with an author that had about 25 books on the category of self-help. And it was one of the few times, positive self-talk, positive self-talk. One of the few times in my entire career that I had to end the account. He would not let me share any tips from his books. He wanted everyone to buy the books and buy his course. And I said, but we have to give them. You have to educate and give information to reporters so that they will want to talk more and feature your book because you offered these tips. And whereas yours is a memoir, you still have tips. You might be using humor, but you still do. So it would really be a question of reading the book and figuring that out. But remember that there's this wide net of media.
Mhm.
And I don't know about anyone here. I read the throwaway newspaper on my driveway every week. Every week, I don't miss it. It's paper thin, but I read it every week because I want to know what's happening in my hometown. And yet I read travel publications because I love to travel. And I love historical fiction books. So I go on Friends in Fiction many times on Wednesday nights to hear them talk about fiction books and a lot of historical fiction books. So remember, there are so many different audiences to reach with a book. And that, I hope, gives you some insight into how a public relations person goes out and pitches different stories. And memoirs are such a great thing. I had done a memoir about a year and a half ago, a man in his 30s who suffered a stroke. And it affected his whole career because his career was athletic. And the amount of stories we got from areas he didn't even know or think that we should have the story really helped grow awareness for him and a charity he was working for.
So one last question, if I may.
The floor is yours.
The memoir, and that's written in like a conventional book, but the two that I have out now are in a poetic type of form. There's meditations in there and some other stuff. So should I wait or see? Right now, these are ready. I mean, they've been out. I've been selling them, and I've been lecturing and doing podcasts and classes. So would you be able to, reach out in public relations with these type of books?
Yes, I would not put all three books together.
Okay, so I could really start with
the same way Sunny has a split with her categories. I see you having a split with the insightful stories and poems and things in the first two books. Get press from that, and then we go back to that press and say, oh, Stephanie has a new book. Then we start that.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
And the more press, the better. Because you want the press. I represent a lot of consumer products, cookware and pets and beauty and whatever. And they want to come back and cover the next item or do a review on the next item. So if you have other books, split it up. And that's going to keep you in the media on a consistent basis and not a one and done.
I see. All right, great. Thank you.
Sure.
So I have a question.
Okay, Donna.
I'm gonna try and coattail off what Stephanie just said about her book. So is that considered mixed genre? And how, if it is mixed genre, you recommend not putting mixed genres together?
Well, I'm looking at it as the let's get more press.
Okay,
So overall in your biography, of course, we're going to list all of your books. But if you have something coming out in the future and you have a book or two that already happened, why not focus on the ones that happened first and then the next one? If you wrote that book 10 years ago, is it relevant? Okay, I had a client who had written a book and they sent me the book and I said, there is nothing relevant about this book today. It was a book written a long time ago, pre-COVID. Things are not done that way now. I know you went and you knocked on doors to do sales and you showed up at a business and can I have a meeting with somebody? Doesn't work like that. I don't want anyone knocking on my door. I don't want to have a meeting unless we schedule the meeting. It's a different world now. And I said, I can't publicize this book because the facts are antiquated. So as long as your book has information that is relevant today and tomorrow, we all have to be forward thinking. If I hear one more person, but I used to, and it was, no, throw it out the window. It doesn't matter what you did in 2005 or 2015. Our world is a different world. But with a book, I would focus on those first. It gives more opportunities. I'm not saying don't mix your genres and who we're reaching, but don't do it right off the bat because you're not going to get as much press. Why not get more press?
yeah. So if you have one book that has already been published and your next book is a book that does have mixed genres in it, say poetry and short stories, how would you go about marketing something like that?
Reaching the different audiences that cover poetry or short stories or the category that if your poetry and short stories is about the beach, okay? I love the Jersey Shore. If anyone here is from New Jersey, nothing like the Jersey Shore. A few Jersey folks, yay. Avon by the Sea is my day trip and Cape May is my longer trip. Love the Jersey Shore. Then we'd be reaching people who might be covering travel to the Jersey Shore, coverage of the seashore, something about the ocean. So we'd have to see what the category is. So we're talking about the poetry and the storytelling and there's a way to tell the story and get the book noticed.
Okay, all right. I have one other question though, if I may. Can you talk to us a little bit more about brick and mortar stores and how a self-published author can get into a brick and mortar? I'm hearing that it's kind of difficult these days. So
And
could you speak
unfortunately,
more on
I
that?
can't even answer your question. I do press coverage and I'm not involved in the sales at brick and mortar locations. However, it's important that if indeed there is a way, and I'm hoping that, you know, Amanda or Polly might have some insights into reaching brick and mortar, it's important, do talks there. Get yourself, do talks. And we didn't talk about that, but a good PR person will also be able to publicize that you're speaking at XYZ location. And so everything from calendar listings, because I skim calendar listings. I don't know about other people, but I'm always looking at what's happening, you know, in my town or close by or in a topic, to social media highlighting that you're speaking somewhere. Like for instance, today, I put it all over my social media that I was speaking here today. And a few of my contacts are actually here joining us. So I'm very glad to see them. So that's important. But go out, speak, sell books when you're speaking. That's a great thing to do. There's an author, Jennifer Coburn, who wrote a book, Cradles of the Reich. It's a World War II historical fiction novel. I met Jennifer gosh, it's almost 2 years ago. And she says, my book is coming out in the fall, last fall. I met her the year before. Can I come speak at your organization in my town? And she says, I don't even have a title of the book yet. And I said, all right, let's do that. So we had her booked. Everyone purchased the book from a bookseller that she had worked with in California, or they ordered it from Amazon. She also brought books to sell. We made sure that it was in the press. We took photos at the event and sent post-event photos out. So that got her more press. She included our press on her social media, and we booked her for her next book that is coming out in about a year or so. Even though we don't know what it is, she says, I'm doing another book. I said, great, we're the first ones having you. And I've already booked her. And so bring books, take pictures, put them on your social. That's another way of PR.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did anyone else want to chime in with any questions or thoughts or anything about your book?
Yeah, can you hear me? Number
Yes,
one?
I can. Go right ahead, Nick.
My People, Planet, and the Power of Money is actually 3 shorter books. And I'm betwixt and between releasing it as 1 book or 3 shorter books. The total words, I think, are about 160,000 between the three books. And they're about our money system and how none of us know how our money is created. And if we did know how our money is created, we'd want to change to a different system so that we can address the tremendous needs of people today and our planet. And so this is to every person audience who is concerned with inequality in our society for people today, and those that are concerned with the environmental concerns from hardly just global warming and climate change, but things like that. That we can solve those with a different money system. So this is where I am, and I'm almost ready to just release it as 1 book, because that's how I conceived of it when I was writing it. The 3 book titles are Money Creation 101, which deals with the money system. It explains how our money is created now and how it could be created. Second book is History of Money, which gives a history of an alternative system of publicly created money. And the third one is Spaceship Earth, which deals with much broader things like taking care of the planet, taking care of the people with a different system of money.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, when I look at the 3 topics, it almost seems like a separation between the money topic and the environment topic, even though there's a crossover. I know it's 3 books, but it almost...
excuse me, but I worked with a developmental editor and she got my first draft, and she was the one that separated the 3 sections. But we weren't talking about 3 books, you know, but 3 sections. She gave me those 3 sections based, not with those titles or whatever. And anyway, it just came out to be a lot more. I didn't think that when I was writing, I thought I had 300-page book. But then when I started talking to like people that would be publishing it for me, not, you know, independently publishing it for me, then they said, oh no, it's going to be, you know, 500 pages plus the back matter, which is, you know, there are 1,000 endnotes in the book. So
yeah, and I think that almost Amanda's going to have a better idea on publishing the book and how it should be. But from a press standpoint, there's too much to cover in 1 pitch for 1 book. So I'd want to separate it if I was working on it, because this whole, and listen, as I mentioned, I live in New Jersey. My son lives in California. if you do not believe in climate change, it makes me crazy. There is climate change, there's global warming, but I'm not going to get political. But anyway, but there are so many people covering these topics and our society and the environment that just off the top of my head, I think there's so much at once that it's almost too much to cover for a reporter, you know, to be able to say, oh, but he focuses on this in part of the book. So off the top of my head, I don't think I would do it as one book. Okay. I don't think and I think, you know, Amanda or Polly could probably give you a better way to turn it into 2, not necessarily 3, but I don't know. I don't know, depending on who your audience is, to read a book like this, you know, versus, you know, a smaller book, who reads what length? And I know that I've read a few biographies that'll be these massive books. And one of the historical fiction books that I just read, The Lincoln Highway, was a really long book that my book club had to do 2 months for everyone to read The Lincoln Highway. So I think that I don't have the answer as much, but I think that Amanda or Polly would be able to give you a better insight into that. But I think that based on research, so obviously this book is a nonfiction book, and based on the research that you've done, having you as a spokesperson to discuss these systems, the money system, how it came into being, and this inequality in society, I think you have so many topics that are relevant to today's world. I don't know where the line is to cut it from a public relations standpoint. So I don't have it. I'm sorry, my answer is wishy-washy. No, but I'm being honest with you. That's where
it's a good answer. Maybe I could talk to who's our host here with you?
Yeah, Nick,
Amanda.
who's your consultant, Nick?
My consultant?
Oh, do you? Okay. Well, I'll email you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a consultant right now.
Yeah.
No, you definitely should be speaking to, you know, to Amanda. And certainly as you're laying out the book and designing the book, Rachel, who's on this call, you know, she does a lot of, you know, book design and layout. How do you split it up in a topic like that? So it's very interesting in what you're looking for. So there need to be, and it's not a fine division, but I see it as being something else. So I'll leave it to you guys to have a conversation offline on that. I also noticed, I guess, in the chat that Catherine uses Podmatch and Matchmaker to do podcasts. And I work with a lot of the people on both Podmatch and Matchmaker to book those. And it's great for you to be able to have your book cover and your links. And I'm hoping you're using all of that on social media. So you are a step ahead.
I had one. Oh, Sunny.
All right, yes. So Catherine, I just wanted to ask Catherine, how's your feedback been? Have you been posting on social? Are you seeing an increase in sales?
Oh yes, I actually Polly gave me that hint in her Buzz book. You know, I followed her processes on in the Buzz book, and I have so much fun. Now my book is it's a comedy book. I wrote a poetry book also, so with, you know, the difference between the two genres I published in are kind of funny too. But my book is These Stories Are True. I shit you not. It's a humorous look at online dating for older people. So I've had a lot of fun with it. And I initially, literally, I published it right before Valentine's Day last year. So I was actually on the radio in Denver, several radio stations. And I've been doing a lot of that on my own, you know, just reaching out. And you can all do that. I mean, my book These Stories Are True, is, you know, it's a fun book. But the other thing I've tried, and I've talked to Polly about this, somebody recommended 2 weeks after I published to get on TikTok, Book Talk. And I do probably 3-4 videos a day, and that has really helped also. And a couple of my videos have over 1 million views. You know, it translates somewhat into book sales, but it's a really interesting passive marketing platform also. But the podcasts are hysterical. especially because of the topic of my the topic of the book. But I did one recently called Dating is a Drag, and one of the women was a life coach in London, and the other one was a drag queen in Ireland. And it was fun. And I mean, if you go on there, you can put your profile, and especially with the gentleman that was just talking about his money books. I mean, there are so many topics and subjects people want to talk about. So you can put your profile on there, and then you can also search and find podcasts to connect to and, market yourself. So it's been very, very helpful for me and a lot of fun. So yes, I really enjoy it.
And okay, I admit, I watched The Bachelor. Okay.
I have never seen that show. I have never seen
watched The
it.
Bachelor, but they're coming out with a senior version of The Bachelor.
Oh, good God.
So
Help
I
us
have
all.
to tell you, when that happens, you can get even more press.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Totally piggybacking on that. Sometimes we need an escape, and it's such stupidity that it gives me an escape from my busy, busy world. So
honestly, I've never watched that show at all.
It's pathetic. Totally pathetic.
But a lot of my friends are hooked on it. So the senior one, I'll have to definitely look into that. So
and you should tie in, and that's
oh
the thing.
yes,
you're working with you're doing a lot on your own, but people who aren't able to do all of this on their own, don't have the time, maybe also have a full-time job in addition to writing, having an outside PR person, also they get the job done.
Yep.
And you're more important. Oh, I'm going to get this to my publicist. And suddenly, they're more important. They have a publicist. So there's two ways. You can do things on your own. I say go for it. But also for those of you who don't have the wherewithal or the know-how or the comfort level, work with a PR person who can get you there. So
exactly.
So that was that. I know that Leo had a question about Bible prophecy, end times, 2 books coming out this year. Leo, it really all depends on the 2 separate books and the category. On launch, I would recommend not launching them at the same time. Buy one, a few months later, come back and buy the second. So I see that would help. There are tons of media outlets covering topics related to the Bible and religion. So I totally recommend splitting it in 2. It'll give you that bump for the second book. Are there other folks that, Sunny? I know we're going later. Is this okay, Amanda, that we're going past the hour?
We'll take
okay. I'm okay for time. I just want to make sure I'm not.
I just have a real quick comment that might help you a little bit with Turner. One of the most remembered characters on television sitcoms was Wilson on Home Improvement. All the years he was on that show, you never saw his face, but he made a real mark. And so if you could figure out some sort of humorous, mysterious way to work with that, that might benefit your approach to publicizing your book.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And that's the thing. The more that you have the opportunity to talk to one another and brainstorm together is when you come up with these things that you never might have thought of, and you never know who. And that's what shows we all live such different lives, but we all have different hobbies and things can cross over. And it's phenomenal when it does. And something you hadn't thought of, or I hadn't thought of, someone else thought of because they happen to read this particular magazine or watch this particular TV show. So that's always an important thing to do.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap us up. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your time today and sharing all this information. It's been so helpful. And thank you. I see a lot of friendly faces. So thank you for coming to support My Word Publishing today and come see Andrea. And I just want to let you know that My Word Publishing does have pretty good amount of recorded classes now. We're kind of building a library. So they're hosted on our website if you find any other book marketing tools that you need to learn about. So mywordpublishing.com. And you can head over to our classes section. Thank you again, Andrea, and I hope everyone has a great weekend ahead.
Thank you so much, and feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Amanda.